"So this is where you've been hiding." A familiar, sneering voice tore through my peaceful afternoon. My stomach twisted. I turned to see them, my in-laws, striding across the property like they owned the place. I clenched my jaw. What the hell are they doing here? "Not bad," my mother-in-law muttered, glancing around with feigned approval. "Heard you bought a house, so we thought we'd stop by. Where's Andrew?" Before I could respond, they shoved past me, settling in as if they belonged here. They pushed past me despite my protests. But they were about to realize they had no control here. I'm Ruby Hill, and I'm 28 years old. I've always loved learning and exploring new things. I was accepted into a reputable prep high school in my hometown and spent my days happily until the winter of my 8th grade year, when my parents were killed in a car accident caused by icy roads. Losing both parents at once was overwhelming. I had no idea how to handle funeral arrangements or the endless paperwork. By the time an agency stepped in to take care of things, most of the insurance money had been used up for funeral expenses and administrative fees. With no relatives to turn to, I was placed in a group home, but I soon learned I could only stay there for about 3 years. Determined to support myself, I searched for live-in employment. But with only a junior high-level education, my options were painfully limited. Then, a bed and breakfast decided to give me a chance. I was hired and thrown into an entirely new world. My training started from the absolute basics: how to wear the uniform properly, how to greet guests, how to handle daily housekeeping. I knew nothing at first, but my senior co-workers and the manager, though strict, were also kind. The manager's daughter and I grew close, and over time, it felt like I had found a new family. 10 years passed. I had become a skilled staff member and saved up a decent amount of money. But I had bigger dreams. I worked hard, determined to carve out a future beyond the B&B. The manager often complimented my coffee brewing skills, and once a year, she entrusted me with preparing coffee for a special supplier showcase event. This event determined which local roaster the B&B would partner with for the year. Our region was famous for its coffee scene, with local roasters, farmers, and specialty cafes all taking part. It was at one of these events that I met Andrew, the man who would become my husband. He was the heir to a long-established specialty coffee shop and was participating in the showcase for the first time. Noticing his nervousness, I handed him a cup from one of the samples we were tasting. Something about his soft-spoken, gentle demeanor drew me in. A year later, we decided to get married. But our engagement wasn't smooth sailing. I was worried from the start, worried that my background would be a problem. I had only finished junior high, lost my parents young, and spent most of my life working at a B&B. Andrew's family, on the other hand, had owned their coffee business for generations. I assumed they wouldn't approve of me. I just didn't expect their reaction to be quite so harsh. The first thing my mother-in-law Madison said to me as I stepped into the foyer was, "You only finished junior high, and you look so plain." The words landed like a slap. I froze for a second, my fingers tightening around my bag. Then, in my shock, I fumbled, dropping it to the floor with a dull thud, scuffing the neatly placed shoes I had so carefully arranged. "Mom, what the hell?" Andrew snapped, shooting her a glare. But Madison barely acknowledged him, her sharp gaze still locked onto me like a predator assessing easy prey. "She didn't even graduate high school, did she? And she has no parents?" She scoffed, shaking her head. "Everyone in our family went to good universities. Someone like that doesn't belong with us." A lump formed in my throat as I forced myself to look at Andrew. "Say something, please." But he hesitated. Sensing no pushback, my mother-in-law kept going. "I bet you don't even know how to cook properly, or do laundry the right way. Who even taught you? You had no parents." She waved a hand dismissively, as if the very thought of me managing household tasks was ridiculous. "At our shop, we deal with uniforms and aprons all the time. My kids handle it just fine. But you? A junior high grad? You'd probably struggle to keep up." A soft, mocking laugh drifted from the couch. My sister-in-law Clara lounged lazily, watching the exchange with clear amusement. Then for the first time, Andrew's father spoke. His tone was calm, but the condescension was impossible to miss. "Andrew, be reasonable. Marriage isn't just about emotions, it's about compatibility. Are you sure she can meet our family's expectations?" Andrew let out a sharp breath, clearly frustrated. "Mom, Dad, that's enough." His voice was steady, though I could sense a defensive edge creeping in. "She's hardworking, responsible, and knows how to handle responsibilities better than most people. She's been a dedicated and skilled staff member at a B&B for years, constantly learning and improving. Even if she's not making 5-star meals, she can cook well enough. You remember me telling you about the B&B, right? Even the manager there respects her skills and reliability. She's going to be an asset to our family business. I've told you this before." He reached for my hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "Don't worry," he murmured. But I did worry. His words sat uncomfortably in my chest. Was I only acceptable because the B&B's manager approved of me? Because I could be useful to the business? His parents' cruel words still rang in my ears, but at the same time, a twisted sense of relief washed over me. At least he had defended me somehow. I clung to the idea that we could make it if we stuck together, but deep down I knew that wasn't belief. It was desperation. Wanting genuine approval from his parents before tying the knot, I waited. But Andrew kept insisting that if my boss, the B&B manager, stepped in, everything would be fine. Eventually, I asked her for help. And just like that, the moment she called them, everything changed. The people who had torn me apart with insults suddenly became polite, almost too polite. It was as if I had instantly become worthy in their eyes, just because someone they respected vouched for me. I remember standing there, stunned. Their change in attitude was so fast, so artificial, that I didn't know whether to feel relieved or disgusted. When I confided in my closest friend Bella, she didn't hesitate. "Are you sure you're okay marrying into that family?" Bella and I had been inseparable for years, practically sisters. She knew how hard I had worked to build a life for myself, and she also knew Andrew from childhood. According to her, the man I described, the gentle, soft-spoken Andrew who stood up for me, didn't match the Andrew she used to know. She worried I was being deceived. At first, I dismissed her concerns. My husband and I settled into a happy life together after marriage. He appreciated my cooking, always thanked me, and his warmth eased my lingering doubts. Maybe Bella had been wrong. I kept my job at the B&B but occasionally helped out at his family's coffee shop. Things felt stable until they didn't. Madison, my mother-in-law, fell down the stairs and broke a bone. Given my rocky first impression of his family, I wasn't eager to get more involved, assuming my sister-in-law would step up. But one evening, after work, Andrew blindsided me. With Mom's injury, this is the perfect time for us to move in. I stared at him, thrown by how casually he dropped such a bombshell. We had never even discussed living with his parents. "Why would we do that all of a sudden?" I asked, frowning. "Our lease isn't up yet. I'm still working, and your sister already lives there. I can just visit during the day to help." A sharp crack split the air as his palm struck the table. I flinched, my breath catching in my throat. My pulse stuttered as I stared at him, stunned. "I'm the eldest son, aren't I?" His voice was sharp, accusing. "Are you really planning to let everyone else do the heavy lifting? We took you in, an orphan with no one, despite my family's objections. Don't you think you owe us? Are you really that dumb with just a junior high education?" His tone was nothing like the Andrew I knew. It was cold, cruel. I must have been trembling because, in the next moment, he pulled me into a loose embrace, as if to soften the blow. "Sorry for yelling," he murmured, his voice taking on that familiar, gentle cadence again. I just got irritated because you can be slow on the uptake, Ruby. It's not your fault you're not that bright. But if you do what I say, everything will be okay. It's normal to feel nervous, but let's just stay there until Mom recovers. That's reasonable, right? A knot of fear twisted in my stomach, but relief followed right after. Maybe this was my chance. Maybe if I helped with her recovery, they'd finally appreciate me, and our relationship would improve. So I gave in. By the end of the month, while juggling work, I packed our things, handled the paperwork, and we moved into my in-laws' house. The day we arrived, Madison wasted no time crushing any hope I had. Don't think that just because you've come to take care of me, we'll appreciate you or treat you any differently, she said, pulling me aside. Her lips curled in disdain. You're still a shameful junior high dropout, the lowest member of this family. Obviously, you'll bathe last from now on. A chill ran down my spine. Cold sweat clung to my back. Living in that house was suffocating. At work I was okay, but the moment I stepped inside, my chest tightened. Soon, I stopped smiling altogether. I made more and more mistakes at the B&B, and though Bella worried, I brushed her off, ashamed that I had dismissed her earlier warnings. The anxiety kept me up at night. My health declined. Eventually, I quit my job under the excuse of needing to care for Madison. The truth was, I didn't even have the energy to leave the house, and that was how my life as an unpaid servant began. How many times do I have to tell you, this is too salty, you trying to ruin our health? I used to think your cooking was decent, but I guess I was just used to it. We might have gotten sick. Ruby, you're lucky Mom's teaching you anything at all, got it? Your cleaning is always half-baked. What's the point of marrying a housekeeper if you can't manage the chores properly? Andrew's insults escalated, his kindness vanishing entirely. Our temporary stay stretched into months, then years. Madison healed long ago. She was even attending her Zumba classes again. But I remained trapped in the house, expected to handle everything. Andrew started calling me a drab old hag and complaining that our home felt lifeless. He stayed out drinking more often than not, barely coming home. One night, my sister-in-law, Clara, who spent most of her time swiping through dating apps at 31, announced she wouldn't be home. She strutted out in flashy makeup and a tight dress, presumably off to meet some new guy. With Andrew gone and Clara out, I thought, finally, I can bathe at a normal hour. I slipped into the tub, sinking into the warmth for the first time in ages. Then, bang! The bathroom door flew open. I turned around in shock to see my sister-in-law standing there, evidently in a terrible mood. Her date must have gone awry. Get out, now! She yanked me from the tub, her nails digging into my arm. I want to bathe next. Before I could react, she shoved me, completely naked and into the hallway, and threw my clothes at me. I wasn't alone. My father-in-law was standing there, having heard the commotion. His eyes roamed over me, and then he sneered. Shh. I thought I might see something interesting, but she's just a skinny, dried-up old hag. No wonder Andrew's never home. A flood of humiliation and fury burned in my chest. I grabbed my clothes and fled to my room, shaking. An hour later, Andrew came home. Whoa! Thought some banshee was wailing in here, he said with a smirk. I wiped my tear-streaked face and told him everything. I thought, and even then, he would be on my side. But he laughed. That's hilarious. Dad teased you too? Something inside me snapped. Why was I letting them trample me? What had I been doing these past few years? Right then, my phone rang. It was Bella. For the first time in ages, I went out. I had lost so much weight that most of my pants didn't fit, so I wore a dress Andrew had given me. Bella took one look at me and covered her mouth, eyes shining with tears. I should have forced my way to see you sooner, she whispered, pulling me into a hug. She led me to a private room she had reserved. I have something important to tell you, she said. What she revealed shocked me, but also gave me exactly what I needed. That night, back at the house, I handed Andrew a set of photos. His face drained of color. "I just met her while I was out drinking with friends," he stammered. "It didn't mean anything. I mean, you're older than me, only a junior high grad, you're clumsy, not even that pretty, and you can't even do housework that well. What was I supposed to do?" He really thought his cheating was my fault. "So you think it's my fault?" I asked, my voice steady. "Exactly. I had no choice," Andrew replied. "All right," I said calmly. "Then let's get divorced. We'll need to explain and apologize to the B&B manager who set us up. And of course, I expect alimony and half of our assets. I'll also be seeking damages from your new girlfriend." He stared at me like I had grown a second head. "Acting all high and mighty, are you?" Andrew sneered, raising his hand and striking me. But the moment he did, it seemed even he realized he'd crossed a line. "You know, I just caught that on record," I said evenly, meeting his stunned gaze. "This is where I draw the line. If you're not ready for a divorce, then we need to at least stop this whole setup with your family. I'm moving out this Saturday. If you refuse, I'll proceed with the divorce." My boss, the B&B manager, was one of the biggest buyers for Andrew's family coffee shop. A huge chunk of their income relied on that partnership. With that leverage, my husband had no choice but to agree to us moving out. I purposely kept my departure date vague to prevent my in-laws from sabotaging anything. My bags were already packed. On the morning of our move, Andrew finally broke the news to his family. They barely reacted, just sitting at the table and demanding breakfast like it was any other day. Their sheer entitlement made me laugh. "Listen," Andrew snapped. "You should have been grateful for all the meals Ruby's been cooking for you. I'm done with the way you treat her." They instantly lashed out, hurling the same tired insults as always. But this time, Andrew slammed his fist against the table. "Enough, I'm moving out," he roared. "Make your own damn food from now on." He turned to me, gripping my wrist. "Ruby, let's go." For a brief moment I wondered, why hadn't he defended me like this before? But it didn't matter anymore. I slipped free from his grasp and met his eyes with a calm finality. Then, turning to his parents, I spoke firmly. "I doubt we'll see each other again. At least now you won't have to deal with this useless woman anymore. Goodbye." And with that, I walked out ahead of him. We stayed in a hotel for a few days, but before long Andrew disappeared. I checked our joint bank account, completely drained. He had taken everything and run. My hands shook as I stared at the zero balance. But Andrew's betrayal didn't break me. A few months later, I was back at the B&B, working as if nothing had changed. Thankfully, I'd always kept my personal savings separate. Money I had set aside for my own future. Andrew couldn't touch a cent of it. On a whim, I bought a small house I had once admired after meeting Bella. Something about it reminded me of the home I had shared with my parents. Warm, welcoming, safe. The very next day after my husband vanished, I called a realtor, and within weeks the place was mine. One afternoon while I was outside enjoying a quiet day off, I heard familiar voices. "Ruby, so this is where you've been hiding," a sneering voice called out. I turned to see my former in-laws strolling onto the property like they owned it. I stiffened. "What are you doing here?" My voice was cold, but they didn't take the hint. "Not bad," my mother-in-law mused, glancing around. "Heard you got yourself a house, so we thought we'd come by. Where's Andrew?" Then, without hesitation, she reached for the front door. "Stop. You can't just barge in." I blocked her path. Madison scoffed. "Oh, cut the attitude. This place is big enough for all of us. We'll be moving in. If you don't like it, you can leave. Oh, and of course you'll keep covering the bills. You grew up poor, so you should be used to struggling, right? We're just having a little temporary hardship, so you're going to help. After all, we're family." She patted my shoulder as if we were old friends. I was stunned by their sheer shamelessness. Before I could respond, they shoved past me, already making themselves at home. I let out a slow breath, then smiled sweetly. Oh, of course. I'd love to help. In the distance, sirens wailed. A voice called out from the top of the elegant staircase. I called the police. They broke in without permission. Ruby, don't let them corner you. It was Bella. Because this wasn't my house, it was hers. I had bought a much smaller home nearby, but today, I was simply visiting her. My former in-laws froze, completely thrown off. Ex-family, I corrected, my tone light. I divorced Andrew. Didn't you know? Their expressions turned blank with shock. And that coffee shop of yours? I continued. It collapsed after Andrew stole the funds and ran. You didn't realize that either? Guess your fancy degrees didn't help when it really mattered. I let out a dry laugh as the color drained from their faces. Bella's voice rang out again. Wait, these people are your ex-husband's family? They followed you here? That's so creepy. She was loud enough for the police officers to hear as they arrived. The commotion drew curious neighbors, and someone muttered, "Hey, isn't that the guy from the old coffee shop?" The crowd murmured among themselves as the officers led my former in-laws to the patrol car. "We may need your statement," an officer told me before driving off, taking them away. As I watched them disappear, a wave of relief washed over me. That night, Bella and I celebrated until dawn. Everything had unfolded exactly as planned. I had suspected my in-laws might try something desperate, so Bella and I had prepared for it. My main priority had been to get out of their toxic household without setting off a dangerous confrontation, and to ensure Andrew signed the divorce papers. I told him that if he didn't cut ties with his family by a set date, I'd file. I had him sign the forms in advance, then pretended to destroy them. In reality, I had kept the originals. As for the money, I left just enough in our business account to bait Andrew into stealing it. Bella had urged me not to give him a cent more. In the end, his own greed sealed his fate. And his girlfriend? She was one of Bella's acquaintances. Andrew had lied to her, pretending he was single, and she had actually believed they had a future. Though I didn't bother suing for infidelity, I encouraged her to take legal action. Faced with a massive compensation claim, my husband panicked and disappeared. To make matters worse for him, that woman turned out to be the daughter of his sister's company president. Once Claire's involvement in the affair became public, she was exposed for harassing male co-workers and forced to resign in disgrace. Meanwhile, my former father-in-law's cushy salary had come from the coffee shop's profits. When Andrew ran off with the money, that income was wiped out. That's why they had come looking for me. After being charged with trespassing, my in-laws spent a few days in detention before being released. With no money left, they lost their fancy house and ended up crammed into a tiny, low-rent apartment, bickering non-stop. Despite all their arrogance, my father-in-law, at 65, had almost no work experience. My mother-in-law had never worked at all, and Clara's scandal left her unemployable. No one pitied them. And Andrew, his ex-girlfriend's father, the furious company president, eventually tracked him down. To pay off his debt, my ex-husband was forced to take a grueling warehouse job, working long shifts under tough conditions. As for me, I finally had my peace. In my cozy new home, far away from the suffocating misery I once endured, I was in no rush to remarry. I was simply living life on my own terms. Bella visited often, and for the first time in years, I felt free of resentment and humiliation. A gentle breeze brushed against my face. "Hey, I'm here!" Bella's cheerful voice called out as she arrived. I turned to greet her, smiling. My dream had always been to create a warm, welcoming space for the people I loved. Now I was finally living it, determined never to lose my happiness again.